anyway, welcome. Thank you so much, Talaya, for taking some time out of your schedule. I know that you are as busy as most of us are, maybe even more. Um, I want to just kind of introduce you really quickly, and then I'm going to let you tell us a bit about yourself. So, for those of you who are watching, whether you're watching us live or on the replay, I met Talaya during a networking event in a group that I'm with. And I was immediately drawn to the fact that she was not only a doula, which I just learned about in the last maybe year and a half, but specifically a cancer doula. And we did not really get a chance to speak together during that first networking session much, but we did speak later on in a one-on-one. We just set up a time to get together. And I think I even told you at the time, and maybe it was towards the end, but to me, your whole demeanor, your story is fascinating, and I know you'll be sharing that with us, and it's very touching. Your passion is very obvious, but your whole demeanor, I told you were like a calm in a storm. I know two people that are in serving others, and it's such a unique trait, character, and so much appreciated. And I can see how that would really be beneficial in the work that you do. So I truly appreciate you. I've been looking forward to getting a chance to speak with you again. So without further ado, would you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes. Well, first of all, Sarah, thank you so much for having me on your platform and for your interest in the work that I do. I'm so glad that we had an opportunity to meet. So basically, I am a 13-year cancer survivor. I was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma in 2011 out of the blue. And I say out of the blue because I was never sick before other than the cold or the flu. And so, of course, when I got this diagnosis, I didn't have a clue about what to do, where to go, who to talk to. At that time, I was really focused on climbing the corporate ladder. You know, society tells us we need to go to college, get a great job, get the house with the white picket fence, all those things. And that did not happen for me, unfortunately. And fortunately, because my diagnosis really opened my eyes to what my purpose is. So I am someone, I really love to travel. I love to read, meet different kinds of people. I just enjoy striking up conversations with just about anyone because it's a great way to learn. So that is a little bit about who I am as a person and how I got to the point to where I'm at today.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I think I can say I was born with the gift of gab as well. I really do enjoy interacting with people. I enjoy meeting people, and you're right. You said it perfectly. It opens up so many opportunities. We learn so much when we just talk to people, and I love that. So would you like to explain for people that don't know what is a doula?
Sure. I love this question because, a lot of people are very familiar with the birth doula. So what I like to do is just really strip down the word doula.
Mhm.
And in Greek, it means a woman who serves, but it also means someone who supports another person going through a major life change or a significant health related experience. To me, that sums up cancer and a lot of other illnesses very well. And so, birth doulas, I like to say, focus on the beginning of life. There are now death doulas. They are becoming more and more popular. They focus on helping people transition and at the end of life. And as a cancer doula, I work with my clients and their families to focus on the present, to help them overcome cancer, to get on the other side of cancer and get the quality of life that they desire. So, as a cancer doula, I am helping people diagnosed with cancer transform how they approach their cancer journey. A lot of times, and rightfully so, when people get that diagnosis, they are riddled with fear. There's so many different emotions, all these different things, so much information coming at them at one time, and it's just very overwhelming.
Mm.
And especially for someone who has never had to face cancer in any capacity. And so I like to help people transform from fear, anxiety, all the worries to empowered patients and individuals who can make informed decisions about their care. But then also, what do they want their life to look like once treatment is done? And so let's talk about the quality of life that you desire. Why do you want to live? What do you have to live for? Let's not focus on the dying part. And one of the questions I really get asked a lot is, do you work with people who have terminal cancer? And I really don't. I focus on people who, don't really have terminal cancer. They're typically diagnosed within the first 1 to 3 months. Sometimes I do work with people who have already started treatment and they're just like, I just need someone to talk to. This is not going well, or I'm very stressed out. No one understands where I'm coming from. But then also, I get a handful of people who would like support into survivorship or post treatment, where you basically complete treatment. During treatment, you've had constant medical care and attention, hopefully, but then you're released. You're released once everything's done. And it's like, good luck. See you in 3 months for your first set of scans post treatment. And that is very terrifying for people because their whole lives have been turned upside down. Their main focus has been, treating the cancer, taking care of themselves, all these things. And they're like, well, now what do I do? And so they are expected to return to normal, but there is no normal for them anymore. So that can be very stressful as well.
I hadn't really thought about that, but yeah, that's very true. And I think it's with cancer, but also I've seen it in other illnesses is when once somebody goes through the treatments and they're stable or in remission or whatever it is, it's like, okay, go back to your life. And I can only imagine. I mean, I've seen people struggle with, but I can only imagine what that feels like. It's like, well, wait a minute. Where'd everybody go? Am I okay? that's
And
that's
things
kind
look
of a
different.
that's kind of crazy. You said something that I that really resonates and it really made me think. It's like, why do you want to live?
Mhm,
That's a
mhm,
great focus. That's an
mhm.
excellent mind shift. I can imagine, especially for somebody, it's like all the, like you said, all the fears and the worries. And it's like, okay, so let's flip that around. And I love it. I love the name of your business, On the Other Side, is because that's what you're really doing is trying to help people get to the other side of, it's not the other side of life, it's the other side of all of this stuff so that you can get back to your life,
That's
even though
right.
it's going to look different.
Gonna look different. That's a guarantee. And the other thing, Sarah, I think really is important is there are more people surviving cancer now more than ever. And so let's not focus on dying. Yep, it's scary. We don't know how this is going to go. We really don't know. But let's focus on all the things, all the reasons why you want to live. And thank you for mentioning the name of my business, On the Other Side, because I always say, on the other side of cancer, there is life. And the term on the other side is typically associated with death. And no, on the other side of cancer, there's life. And
Right.
let's start thinking about what you want that to look like. It's not
Right.
over.
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, nowadays it used to be cancer diagnosis was a death sentence. There is, I mean, I'm 61. I can remember when I was younger and people would get, a diagnosis and it wasn't uncommon for them to pass because of it. But today, and I don't want to get into the hows and whys. I mean, I'm sure there's advances in medicine, there's advances in natural healing, or more education. And so I think that we're more and more. I've got two very good friends that both were diagnosed with breast cancer, who are doing amazing. So yeah, this is I love this. I love this. There's life after cancer.
Mhm.
It's life
Yeah.
after cancer. So let me ask you, what kind of training? I mean, you have experience, obviously. You have very, very personal experience, which I'm assuming helped you maybe, oh, my brain, I just lost what I was thinking, the word I was looking for, but maybe kind of have an intimate understanding of the types of questions and fears and just needing for direction and guidance that people might have. But what
Mhm.
about the training? What is the training for a doula? And thank you so much for your definition of doula, because I wasn't aware that there were different types of doulas.
Mhm.
I knew of death doulas. I didn't even know of birth doulas.
Divorce doula now.
There's
Yes,
what?
a divorce doula.
Wow. Okay. But
Yes,
when the description that you get, that makes sense. Someone who
it
helps
makes
people
sense.
through major life events.
Yeah.
Divorce is a pretty major event. Been there, done that.
Mhm.
Um, so tell me specifically with so I'm with that, is all training the same for different types of doulas? And then people just kind of find their niche, or how does that
Sure.
work?
Okay, so for me personally, this is something that I created for myself. So
Okay.
when I was going, and I like to make sure people understand, when I was going through cancer, I did not have the emotional support that I needed. I tried to go to a support group. It wasn't the right fit for me. Everyone there was older, everyone there was negative. My cells and my body were like, please get us out of here. We want to live. And so, because I was not getting my needs met through the traditional healthcare system, I started doing research about ways that I could support myself.
Oh,
So, a cancer doula is something that I created out of a need that I had. Now, so I like to make sure people understand that. Now, in terms of training, there is none. There is none.
okay.
So what I did was I created my own training program. And I'm happy to say that hopefully sometimes next year I will have, because I get so many people that email me, well, how do I become a cancer doula? There's nothing in place because this is something that I put together for myself.
Wow.
Then I said, well, if I have this need, other people must have this need too. And so cancer doula, that's really new. It's really, a lot of people really don't even understand what it is. So in terms of the training that I put together for myself, I became a certified coach. So a mental health first aider for adult and youth, because there are different aspects of mental and emotional things that come up. I'm not a licensed therapist or counselor, anything like that. And then also, I'm a board certified patient advocate. So that's where I can really help people advocate for themselves, to navigate the healthcare system, to understand how what their rights are. You know, a lot of people don't understand how to navigate the healthcare system. I did not know because I wasn't a healthcare consumer other than my annual exams. And so those are the things that I, have put together for myself in terms of training. And then most recently, I completed a program for health and wellness coaching. And so that is where like the more holistic part comes in as well. Nutrition, all those different things. I'm not a dietitian, nutritionist, none of those things.
Mhm.
The other thing that I must point out is that I do not give medical advice. I do not tell people what to do. I don't tell them what treatment, none of those things.
Mhm.
This is really focused on practical emotional support and guidance, guiding people through the cancer journey. Now, the other thing I like to say, Sarah, is that if someone is in need, for example, of a mental health provider, I help them find those resources. So I don't do anything outside of my scope.
Mhm.
The other thing that I like to make people aware of is the different modalities that are available: yoga, Tai Chi, meditation, journaling. There's so many different things that a lot of people are still not aware of,
Mhm.
that can help support them in the side effects that they're experiencing as well while they're going through treatment. And so there is no formal training. hopefully, as I mentioned, next year, I will have something that I can offer to people. And then I'm working on some other things too that are for people who are interested in learning and becoming a cancer doula.
Awesome. It's funny, you mentioned, Talia, how people might not know of other things that they can do. And you mentioned like the journaling and the Tai Chi and stuff, or that they hadn't heard of it. And I'm thinking what came to my mind when you said that is I don't know even if it's so much they haven't ever heard of it, but maybe they don't understand how it can be used to help support themselves.
Yeah, and that's fair. That's true. Yeah, they
Yeah,
don't understand it. And because there's so many new things coming, for example, mind body connection, people may have heard of it, but they don't understand the power of it.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So I love that. I love that you're a resource
Yeah.
for basically not only physical needs but mental needs and emotional needs, and maybe tapping into things that they've heard of but don't understand, and learning how these
Mm,
other things can help them. That's awesome.
that's right.
um I had a question here, but I think we've already answered. It's like, why did you choose to focus on cancer?
Mhm. Yes. And not only for my own personal needs, Sarah, but it's so interesting because I had started a new job after, I had went through treatment and everything. A couple years later, I had started a new job. And one of the ladies, actually two of the ladies there had been diagnosed with cancer.
Mm,
And one of them confided in me that she had gotten this diagnosis. But she didn't know anything about my prior experience with cancer. And so she called me one night. She asked if she could call me. She said she has something to talk to me about. And she shared with me that she had just received a lung cancer diagnosis.
mm,
She wasn't sure what to do. And so I shared with her, I said, I'm not sure why God put it on your heart for you to tell me, because we really didn't know each other that well. And I said, but I'm glad you did, and he did, and you followed through, because I actually experienced cancer and I stepped her through the whole process. And she said, Talia, everything that you share with me, everything is either what happened or it helped me to prepare for what was to come. And she just, went on about how grateful she was. But I know that so many other people feel the same way.
mm,
Also, Sarah, you mentioned resources, and I think this is very important. Cancer care needs to be very personalized, not just in terms of treatment, because it is most of the time in terms of treatment. But what about taking care of the whole person? That is what needs to be personalized. And so, as a cancer doula, I help to bridge the gap between the medical and emotional sides of cancer, that emotional piece that's missing. In terms of resources, it happened to me. You go to where your cancer center, they have the same list of resources that they give everyone. Well, those may not apply to people from different cultural backgrounds, whatever it is. And so having that variety, having a network of different people that I can refer clients to, I think is very important as well.
I love that. That's one of the things I love about what I do is just
Mhm.
like this, and networking and finding those people who can satisfy different needs for different people.
Mhm.
Nothing makes me happier than being able to, if I can't help someone personally, it's like I don't have that, but I know someone who I think is going to be an amazing person for you to meet. And
Yeah.
I enjoy that so much, because when it works, and you have more of those, you have the network, so you can find people, you talk to them, and you're like, okay, personalities, and it lets you do that. And then it saves so much. And even for my own personal, it saves so much energy and anxiety
Mhm.
when you are speaking with someone you trust, and they're like, I have someone I think you should talk to. I think you're gonna enjoy speaking with them, and you do. It's like, It's such a relief. It is. And I love being able to give that to other people. So I very much resonate with that thought and that feeling. Very much so. Um, and this is also kind of tied up into it. We've talked a lot about what you do and how you do. So what's the difference, or is there a difference with how you help individuals and how you can support families? Because I don't
Mhm,
think people even think about that there's not just one person when there's a diagnosis. I mean, whether it's cancer or any major life thing, it's not a one person thing.
mhm, mhm. That's true, and it is different. And I can give you a couple examples. So sometimes the patient, the person diagnosed with cancer, comes to me directly, and I just work with them. There's times when the family members reach out to me for support for their loved one. And so I start working with them to say, what are you noticing? What are the things that you're struggling with to support your loved one? From your point of view, how does your loved one seem to be coping with everything that's going on? How are they interacting with their healthcare team? Do you feel like as a family, you are getting your questions answered? And so it does look a little bit different. And also, you have to factor in the communication piece. A
Mhm.
lot of times, communication can break down, for spouses. You have the spouse that wants to support their loved one with cancer, but the loved one with cancer is not really being transparent and sharing specific things. So that causes the other spouse to just feel like, hey, I don't know what to do. They're not talking to me. And unfortunately, if there were already problems in the relationship before, a
Mhm.
diagnosis can kind of heighten or um, make those troubles a little bit um, more visible, so to speak, cause more tension. And so it's very different, yes, because you have the family, the caregiver, who is trying to figure out how to best support their loved one. And then you have the person with cancer trying to figure out how to just get through it all.
Mhm.
And those are kind of two different dynamics. But then you want them to come together in the middle and say, this is what I need. How can I, and work together on how they both can get their needs met.
That's really powerful. I don't think a lot of people think about that either, about when you're in a situation with somebody with a diagnosis. My husband, right after we got married, was
Mm.
diagnosed with a brain tumor.
Oh, wow.
And fortunately it was benign,
Yeah.
but it did have to be removed. So it was
Mhm.
still a major surgery. It created some really interesting dynamics between us, because I felt, and one of the things I felt afterwards, and I have actually spoken to some people who have shared with me that they had a brain tumor,
Mm.
um, and when they're contemplating surgery. And one of the things I said, I wish somebody had told me,
Yes.
is that it can really affect the person's personality. Nobody told me that. Nobody
Mm.
told either one of us that. They didn't tell us that, hey, so here's some things you can expect.
Yes, that's
And
important.
it would have been, it wasn't going to change it, but it would have been nice just to know that that was a possibility. Because for a long time, I mean, the first, I don't know how many, 6 months or a year, it was like, what's going on? With him, it was his sense of humor
Okay.
drastically changed. And it was just like so unexpected. So um, I can really understand how that communication, how you can bridge that. It's like me, okay, the doctors may not tell you, but here's
Mhm.
a discussion we should probably have. And it's
Mhm.
not to change it. It wouldn't have changed our decision. I don't believe, but it just would have been, things. Sometimes it's just those little things. It's
A
just
little-
just nice to know
You're right. You're
this
right.
could be something you might have to deal with.
Yes, you're aware. You're aware, so you're not so surprised or like, well, what? I don't understand what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
Just to have a little bit of what to expect. It may not go exactly like that, but just
Right.
the awareness. And
Yes.
then also what I found about communication between families and the loved one with cancer is that they will share things with me that they won't share with each other because they don't want to hurt each other's feelings, or they don't want to make the other person very more worried than they already are. And so
Mm-hmm.
I can be that person that kind of, you know, communicates in between them and just kind of smooth it over, but make sure they understand what's going on with their loved one on either side.
Right.
So
Right.
that is so important too,
Mm.
because the caregiver at times feels isolated, and then the person with cancer feels isolated. So it's so important to just kind of make sure that they have that open line of communication.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And I wanted to get back because you said something earlier. You were talking about how even after you had gone through your own cancer journey and had gone back to work, and
Mhm.
it was a couple years later, and then, or for a couple years. So that was interesting because it wasn't really that you just said, I've gone through this, this is my calling, this is what I'm going to do.
Mhm.
But it was after that, going through the process and helping others then who just came to you unexpectedly through the process. So
Mhm.
that's how you actually just, somewhere along that line, you decided this is what I need to do.
Yeah.
Do you remember
So,
when that maybe became very clear for you?
mhm. The key word is clear. Yes. So so when I always knew that I was someone who was supposed to be helping other people.
Mhm.
I just wasn't really sure what that looked like. Now, what I did not share with you was prior to being diagnosed with cancer, I was in a career that I no longer enjoyed.
Mm.
I was very stressed out. And so those things about a change were kind of already in the back of my mind, but I'm like, well, I don't really know what I want to do next. But then when I was diagnosed with cancer, that became more and more like, you got to find your purpose, you got to find your purpose. And I knew that what I had went through with my cancer diagnosis wasn't in vain. I was supposed to do something with that. I was not sure what.
Mhm.
And so what I did was I started saving money, putting together a plan because I knew I was going to exit. I wasn't sure when and what for. I wasn't sure what that was going to look like. But the more and more that people would just confide in me and open up about their own diagnosis, and the feedback that I would get from them about how I supported them and the difference that it made, connecting all those dots, it was like my purpose found me in a sense, you
Mhm.
know. Now, what I want people to understand is that when you are done, for most people, when you are done with treatment, everything you're just trying to figure out, I don't know what to do next. A lot of people do end up leaving jobs, relationships, all kinds of things because they have really thought about what's important to them.
Mhm.
And I knew that, getting paid well and all those things, it's nice, but it's not fulfilling my purpose. And I wanted to make sure that I was doing something with what I had experienced. And so those encounters did lead me to say, I'm onto something. This is it. And as I mentioned, I was able to take what I created for myself
Mhm.
and in a sense test it test it out on other people, and just see if it worked for them. And the
Mhm.
way that I supported them, the information that I was able to share with them, and the guidance I was able to give them, that confirmed that yes, this is needed and it's helpful for people and it makes a big difference. And so that's when I really started to pursue being a cancer doula. Initially, I was calling myself a cancer coach,
Mhm.
but I'm like, coaches are everywhere. I'm not a coach. I don't like that word. It's too impersonal for the work that I do with people.
Right.
with my clients. And so really started researching the word doula. And then that's when I said, I'm going to call myself a cancer doula instead of a cancer coach.
I understand that process as well. With coaching, and I even had it suggested that when I landed on advocate really resonated for me because I'm
Mhm.
not specific to one thing, but I advocate for people and help them try to find what works for them. I
Yeah.
don't claim, to be anyone or have the magic wand or the silver bullet, but I like
Mhm.
to advocate and have people advocate for themselves. So I do understand that. I just recently went through another overture of that and I ended up coming back to it. Um,
Nice.
that's a good feeling. And it's a good feeling when it's like, this fits. This
Yeah.
fits. So both in in what you're doing and the label for or title you've given yourself, it all fits. And I love that. I love that so much.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you so much for spending this time with us and sharing your journey, how you got to where you are, your personal experience. I'm going to drop some links into the chat, and I will also put that in there in Facebook later on when I share that. Um, do you have any last thoughts you'd like to leave us with? And then I'm going to, while you're doing that, I am going to drop some links that where people can find you. And by the way, if you're watching, Talaya has given us some amazing free downloads. There's a guided meditation and video, among other ones. So I'm going to drop those for you too. But Talaya,
Sure. Well, Sarah, thank you so much for having me. I just enjoyed our conversation today, as always. And to anyone out there listening who has been diagnosed with cancer, I just want to encourage you to really focus on why you want to live, what is really important to you.
mm,
Try not to be led by fear. Gather information, either you or, a loved one, gather information, make informed decisions, and know that you are the captain of the ship. The healthcare providers and the healthcare team work for you. And so you have a say so in what care looks like for you. And then finally, I just want to tell you don't stop before you get started. So that
mm,
means, in other words, don't throw your hands up and say, my life is over because you've gotten this diagnosis. Just get up every day, do what you can do each day, and you're going to look back and you're going to be done with treatment, however long that takes. But just take one day at a time. And always know that you're not alone. Reach out and ask for help. And if you are not interested in my services, and that's okay, I do offer a podcast called Navigating Cancer Together, where you can hear from other people that have been diagnosed with cancer. There's something for caregivers as well. And then also wellness champions who offer a wealth of information about different ways to take care of yourself while you're going through treatment. So that's the resources piece that I mentioned earlier. And you can find Navigating Cancer Together on any podcast platform. Again, Sarah, thank you so much. And I hope this was helpful for someone listening.
I'm sure it was. It was very eye-opening for me as well, even though we've talked. And that's one of the wonderful things about having conversations with people is even when you've talked to them numerous times, you're always learning something new. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your time, and please grab those links. Thank you for mentioning the podcast. I was going to bring that up, but yes. And Talia, have a wonderful evening. I look forward to talking to you again soon. And thank you again for being here.
Thank you so much. Have a good evening.
Thanks, you too. Bye bye.
Bye.